So I decided to make a little off-the-cuff video, literally just sitting on my couch, because I was just watching Mikhaila Peterson interview Jocko Willink. And if you don't know who he is, he's a retired Navy SEAL. He has his own podcast. But Mikhaila and Jocko are both ESTPs, and watching them interact really brought to light the differences in interaction styles for me, and I wanted to share it with you. So in the beginning of the video, before she shows the interview, Mikhaila gives a little disclaimer that she had a really hard time interviewing Jocko for a number of reasons. One is that she got through all of the questions she wanted to ask in 20 minutes because he is so straightforward. And of course he is, because she is direct control initiating, he is direct control initiating. So the interaction between two ESTPs, like same interaction style, same functions, they're doing the same thing, okay? They're just so direct. And I've experienced this with other ESTPs. It's almost difficult to keep a conversation going because we're both so direct. No one is informing, no one's moving the conversation in a different way. We're both just there like, is this what this is? Yes, this is what this is. Does this work? Yes, this works. And then that's it. The conversation is extremely efficient, but not the best for trying to keep an interview, going and lively. So I also have trouble with this in my videos where I'm just like talking to the camera. They're all short, and I do my best to like make them a little bit longer, like I'm trying to inform you on different things right now, just for the sake of more information. But like, I really could just make this video in like 30 seconds because I simplify things and tell you what exactly something is. And I've had a lot of people in the community tell me that they really like my videos because they like my way of explaining something, because and they don't realize, they come and they think that like, oh, I'm an intuitive, but I love how you explain it. It's like, well, it could be because you're a sensor and you have high SE and you like that I just come directly with this is what this is, and then it all makes sense to you. I write it out in a very like mathematical way. But anyway, where was I going with this? Okay, so I'm watching Mikhaila and Jocko, and she also said, I'm like looking at the TV like it's still on. She also talked about how she had trouble because she was feeling nervous and she didn't realize that that's what she was feeling. And she went to her husband and it's like, what is this feeling? What is? Looking for SE. What is? And, little FI trickster in there. I know that this is something, I'm feeling something, something's off because of how the videos come out, but I don't know what it is. And he's like, you're feeling nervous. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess I do feel nervous when I interview Navy SEALs because I feel lower on the dominance hierarchy, which I love, like her tying in what her dad talks about and, the logical nature, like, oh yes, this makes sense. Like, I am feeling this. Okay. But watching her interview Jocko, it's like almost, it's painful, like in a comical way. And then at the end of the 20 minutes when she's gotten through all her questions, because like, she's like, is this? And he's like, yes, this is this. She has to improvise a conversation, which is also like, ESTP territory, not hard to do, to improvise and bring that FE in. But it's difficult when somebody is not like feeding you from the other end, which is another reason why I have trouble making longer videos, because if I'm not talking to someone, I'm just like looking at myself talking to you. It's hard for me to keep going. So, but it's good to juxtapose the Mikhaila Peterson with Jocko Willink interview with Joe Rogan interviewing Kanye West. So Joe Rogan is also an ESTP and Kanye West is an ENTP. And no matter what you think about any of these people, they are good studies of the type. So I think the way Joe Rogan interviewed Kanye was absolutely masterful. Like, nobody else could have done it that well. And he made Kanye feel very comfortable, and he brought out the real Kanye. And he allowed him to just let his mind, I suppose, just shine forth in its true form, and was completely accepting of that and facilitated that. And if you watch, Joe Rogan asks a very concrete type question, and then Kanye doesn't really answer the question. In his mind, he does. Like, he's answered it, because NE is seeking meaning. It talks about meaning. It doesn't talk about what something is. So Joe Rogan will ask about what something is, and then Kanye will kind of talk around the question. And then what Joe does, because Kanye realizes that he's difficult to interview, and he's like, I just went on a 20-minute, 30-minute riff. He calls them riffs, but what's he really talking about? He's talking about his interaction style, and he's talking about NE. Kanye understands how his mind works very well, and he doesn't speak in terms of MBTI, but that's essentially what he's talking about. The whole, whenever he explains how his mind works, he's talking about how it makes all these different connections, and like, okay, there's that over here, and then that reminds me of that over here, and then that over here. And we all do this. We're all capable of making connections. But what are you primarily doing? Are you primarily looking at something for what it is, seeing the thing, dissecting the thing, or are you talking around the thing, around the meaning of the thing? It was very good to juxtapose Joe Rogan talking to Kanye West, because then at the end, Kanye will go on this 30-minute rant, and Joe Rogan will take it and he will concretize it. And he will say, okay, what you're talking about is this. Like, because he's talking about, you said all this, but what is it? SE. And that's very helpful for the audience who are not high NE users, to understand, like, what is Kanye even talking about right now? Like, and sometimes, Kanye will lose me. Because if you zone out for even like a second, you're somewhere else. You're on a different subject. So it takes like such focus, which I think Joe must have taken like a lot of alpha brain that day to not drift off, or maybe he did, but he's a professional, so he didn't notice. But keeping that kind of focus for 3 hours is, for me, like, yeah, quite exhausting. I think for most people, quite exhausting. So that's a really good thing to look at if you're wanting to see the difference between SE and NE in a high position. Look at Mikhaila interviewing Jocko. You don't need to watch the whole thing. And then look at Joe interviewing Kanye, and watch the interaction styles. Watch how Kanye talks about his mind. And Mikhaila will often talk about her mind as well. Joe doesn't do that so much. Jocko doesn't do that so much. But she, because of like who her father is also more interested in the psychological realm, and she will explain things in terms of like the big five, which you could, but you could see how she's also talking about functions. So that's a good example to look at for understanding concrete versus intuitive, SE versus NE, because there is a lot of confusion about those in the community. So yeah, that's my video. Check out the Type Match app.